Hi beauties, I'm Bella and welcome back to the Bellaverse. In today's video, I want to discuss 5 things I do as a language learner that helps me master the language learning journey. If that's something that you're interested in, keep on watching.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, it's me. I'm here. Is this thing even on?
I want to make it a habit to start off my videos with 2 little rituals. Number 1 would be my State of the Union. If you don't know the reference, it's from an old movie I watched as a kid and rewatched as an adult. It was called The Click, and I really like that, so I wanted to incorporate it. And then I will do my weekly faves, just like I would in my bullet journal. All right, let's get right into it. Okay, State of the Union. In. For my in this week, or my ins, I'll do 3. Flavored water. Chef's kiss. Just like Aiku flavored water, cran water, things like those. I found the French version and it was bomb. Absolutely in. Next up, I have bleach. Bleach is the master product for all things cleaning and disinfecting. Chef's kiss. And lastly, AITA videos on TikTok. Those things have me in a chokehold. I love those so much. Alright, so those are my ins. Outs, I have overpacking. I am a chronic overpacker. Oh my god. I have way too much stuff. Next, we have a deep cleaning. Like, something is always left to be done. Like, I'm so over it at this point. Plus, my landlady asked me for 50 euros to pay to deep clean the room. So I don't know why I'm still deep cleaning, but you know, that probably makes me stupid because I did pay the 50 euros. Anyway, and then finally we have anxiety. Anxiety has got to go in 2025 because what? We gotta send her packing. All right, on to my weekly faves. My favorite book this week was The Stranger in the Lifeboat by Mitch Albom. And I saw Dr. Terry Carell Johnson, read that on a flight and I picked it up. I could not put it down. It was so inspiring to me. I don't usually read books like that, but it was very, very, very good. 5 out of 5 stars. Would recommend to a friend. Favorite song? Well, I had 2 on repeat this week. Both were by soeaking. Yeah, and Know Me Without You. Close to tears every single time. Eats down. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 stars. My favorite quote this week was start at the start. And how I interpreted that was to start where you are. It's not the start unless you start. So get going. Do it tired, do it broke, do it clueless, do it lonely, do it alone. Just start. Do it. Whatever it is that you are, dreaming about doing, do it. Start at the start. Yeah. All right. Let's get right into the video. Before we get into the 5 things that I do specifically to help me master my language learning journey, I'd like to make 2 important points to note. The little NBs, note brieflies? Yeah, 2 important. Number 1, you must recognize that each language has 4 domains: reading, speaking, listening, and writing. And to be considered fluent in a language, you must be able to master all 4. All right. Point to note number 2. Each language has 4 main components: phonology, semantics, grammar, and pragmatics, okay? In order to master the 4 domains, you have to have a wider or deeper understanding of those 4 components so you can focus on your weaknesses and, build on your strengths. It's as simple as that. Let's break it down just a little bit. Okay, phonology. This is how sounds are put together to form words, okay? In Jamaica, we say phonics. Phonics is a part of phonology. Phonology is the root of, is the root of phonics. But yeah, I'll give you an example in French. Just like how the GN digraph, is that a digraph? I think it is. If it's not, forgive me. The GN digraph makes a n sound. N, n, n. For example, in the words oignon, mignon, grignoter, grignoter. Those words all have that blend, the n sound in the middle. All right. So it shows how the j sound and the n sound come together to make n, if that makes sense. So that explains phonology. Next up, we have semantics. This is the study of meaning, the meaning of those words that were created using phonology. Meaning, and this includes vocabulary. This looks at the meaning of words, especially in context, and how some words can have double meanings and how some words are inexplicable. It's like a feeling, It also includes vocabulary. For example, in French, I'm thinking of the word excité, which generally means to be excited. But in another context, after, let's say, a night at the bar, after a couple of drinks, excité can take on a whole new meaning. Next up, we have grammar. This is normally guided by rules, several grammar rules I can think about from the top of my head, would be subject-verb agreement for one. I'll give an example in French. In French, there are certain adjectives that are placed directly before the noun in a sentence and some that are placed directly after the noun in the sentence. Also, there is agreement of the adjective to the noun in gender and number in French. So, quick example. You have une belle dame, mais deux belles dames. Avec S. Belle avec S, dame avec S. Pluriel. Une belle dame, deux belles dames. Un beau homme, deux beaux hommes. Beau avec X, homme avec S. Okay? Another example. Mon couleur préférée. That is another example of the adjective coming after the noun. Lastly, we have pragmatics. This looks at the social and transactional use of the language, meaning conversation. How do you talk? How do you say stuff? How do you, what's the lingo? What's the dialect? How do normal everyday people talk? I mentioned a little bit about this in my previous video. If you haven't watched that, what are you waiting for? How je ne sais pas en France becomes je sais pas moi. And that is just how things are used in context, in everyday language, in conversation. So the French, even though in written French, in traditional French, you have the je, the pronoun, the ne, which is the beginning of the negated sentence, the conjugated verb se, and then the rest of the negative expression pas. There are several. Plus, pas, guère, jamais. There are several negative expressions. So the grammar rule is that when you're negating something in French, you have a negation sandwich. You know, the ne, conjugated verb, and then the rest of the negative expression. Plus, pas, guère, jamais, so on and so forth. And so you would get the sentence je ne sais pas. But in conversation here, they omit that ne, and that becomes je sais pas. And when you hear it spoken by a native, it sounds so much faster than je sais pas, je sais pas, je sais pas, je sais pas, je sais pas. It becomes je sais pas, je sais pas, je sais pas. Où vas-tu? Je sais pas. Où d'habitude? Je sais pas. Où sont mes clés? Je sais pas. That's what pragmatics look at, you know, the use of the language, the social and conversational and transactional use of the language. All right, enough of the talking, Bella, and let's get right into my 5 little helpful tips. Now, they're not tips. This is what works for me. If it also could work for you, amazing. Right? Hold on. Water break. Number 1, I changed the language of my primary device to the target language, which at the time was French. I did this over 6 years ago when I was doing CSEC French. I would not recommend that you do this if you do not have a good grasp and tech savviness and ability to navigate your phone in your native language. So, if you were always an Android girl and you just got an iPhone, please do not change the language of your phone until you have navigated the iOS system. So once you have mastered that, then boom. I did this over 6 years ago when I was in high school and I was just doing French, and I haven't looked back since. It has helped me so much. It has helped me so much with vocabulary, with, you know, I don't even know, with reading, with my vocabulary, with my ability to use context clues, because I'm not gonna know everything. I don't even know everything in English. And so while using my phone, I stumble up on the the best vocabulary that I would not think to research. For example, who knew that brightness in French was la luminosité? I didn't. Okay? Point to note, I would not suggest that you change the language of your phone from your native language unless you have fully grasped the system of your phone. For example, if you are an Android girl and you're just switching over to iPhone, please learn the iOS system, learn how to use the phone, learn how to navigate the phone, remember the phone and its functions before you change. Or, I mean, you can always change it back. Just remember where in the settings you changed it in the first place. Okay? Yes, so the primary language on my iPhone right now is French, and the secondary language is English, and then I have a third language, which is Spanish, which I'm also learning, but not as extensively as I'm learning French. All right, number 2, writing things down. I stand by this. I live by this. Write things down. Something silly, something funny, something you didn't know, something to research, something that you want to know the meaning of, something that you heard someone say, something that you saw at the supermarket. Write things down. again, it builds on your vocabulary. It builds on, your ability to read French. It builds on pragmatics, how those words were used, in what context they were used. It helps in so many ways by just writing stuff down. I have a note in my notes app dedicated to just French vocabulary that I hear, French vocabulary that I randomly think of, and I just want to write it down. I learn by writing. I mainly learn by writing stuff down, and I just find that it helps me retain information better, especially vocabulary. And especially when I write stuff down, I research the meaning and then I use it in a sentence. Chef's kiss. I love that. Next up, passive learning through entertainment. Now, I am a passive learning girly when it comes to entertainment because I cannot actively remain entertained while learning, if that makes sense. So things that I do for fun, personally, don't work for me if I'm trying to learn. For example, watching YouTube videos is part of my entertainment. So if I go on YouTube looking for something that will teach me something actively, I won't get it. Or even if I do get it, it's gonna take a long time for me to get it. As opposed to me who, I watch movies passively, so I can learn passively from movies. So passive learning through entertainment, meaning it's not the direct objective to learn. The direct objective is to, have fun. And if you're learning, then that's a plus. But I do want to learn though. But that's not my primary goal. If you get what I mean. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? But yeah, passive learning through entertainment. Entertainment for me looks like music, podcasts, cartoons, movies, things that you can put on while you're doing something else. For example, when I'm walking to school, I have a French podcast that I listen to. Amazing. Am I actively listening to write stuff down? What does this mean? What is he saying? No. I'm just training my ear to listen to French. And by doing that, I retain some information that ends up helping me. You get what I'm saying? So the direct objective is not to learn, but to focus, on other skills. That could be listening skills, that could be interpretation skills, that could be pronunciation skills. It depends on what your objective is. But my objective when I'm doing passive learning through entertainment is mostly to build on my listening skills so I can mimic the sounds. It took me the longest while to get the guttural R. I could not do it in high school. I could not do it in college. But by training my ear to listen to what it sounds like, I can make the guttural R. For example, in the word février. See? It's not as strong as the French people I'm own, but it's still there. And I got that through mimicking and, training my ear to listen to French. Yeah. Next up, I incorporate my hobbies into my French learning process. Yeah. So I enjoy a good book. You know what I did? I picked up a French book, and it might take me longer to read than I would a book written in English, but it can be so entertaining, especially when you know what's going on. So you take your time, little by little, and you just start reading French if you are a person who enjoys reading. If you are not a person who enjoys reading, you're gonna hate reading in another language even more. So you must play to your own strengths as well. Also, aside from reading, I like poetry. You know what I did? I followed some poetry creators on Instagram who create poetry in French. And when I see that, especially if they do spoken word poetry and I can listen, read, and write, those building on those 3 skills, amazing. So what I'll do, I write it, I write it down in French. I translate to English, well, not word by word, but phrase by phrase, which I'm understanding that works better, phrase by phrase, line by line. And then I listen to the creator saying it and I can mimic that. So I reread it, and it's so much fun because you're learning so much. And then, so I incorporate my hobbies. I read, and I look at poetry in French, and that really helps me on my language learning journey. Last up, practice. And by practicing, I mean you have to immerse yourself into the culture in some way, shape, or form. Immersion does not have to mean you're gonna spend millions of dollars and go to a French-speaking country to learn the language. It does not have to be that extreme. As a matter of fact, it does not have to be expensive at all. It can simply mean finding a native to talk with. As simple as that. Finding a native person to talk with. A lot of people I see going on J1 and they're meeting people from all over the world. Go get a pen pal. Yeah, get a pen pal. Also, there's this app called Hello Meet. It's very good to talk to natives there as well. They are always looking to improve their English, so that can be a beautiful exchange for you guys if you're comfortable talking to strangers. I myself wish I had like a native to speak to more often, and I'm very embarrassed to say that I've been here 6 months and I haven't made a single French friend, which is awful. But I've never been good at making friends, so there's that. Anyway, that's it from me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend that I'm on YouTube. Yeah. And until next week, bisous.